When you pitch a reporter on a story, do you hold some information or material back? We'll explore the pros and cons of doing just that in this short midweek episode of For Immediate Release. Another fine podcast from the FIR Podcast Network.
This is For Immediate Release, the podcast for communicators.
Welcome to episode 324 of For Immediate Release. I'm Neville Hobson.
And I'm Shel Holtz. One of my jobs is pitching stories to the media. I don't get to do that as much as I'd like, other priorities being what they are, but I just finished the first draft of a white paper we're going to use as the basis for some infographics, some thought leadership. Those will be pieces that we'll have our thought leaders and subject matter experts post to LinkedIn. Some other things that I'll be able to extract from it, and I plan to use those as part of my pitch to get coverage on this particular issue. I spent a solid week researching the topic for the white paper, and the infographics are going to be original materials from the company. The question is, do I use that original research and content in my pitch? And for me, that's a no-brainer. Of course I will. The original research is what's going to attract reporters and editors to this work. Coverage I hope to get will, with luck, find its way to some decision makers for a project the company's going to be bidding on soon, and with even more luck, influence their decision on what company to hire. So I was a little surprised to see a Forbes Communication Council post with 15 communicators sharing their opinions on the value of incorporating proprietary materials into PR pitches. So most of those 15 council members from the Forbes Communication Council agreed with me. And I mean, why wouldn't you? But there was one who explicitly didn't. Jesse Anthony with Claimosity said that if a pitch requires the support of proprietary material, it's not strong enough to stand on its own. A journalist is a master of seeing potential and resists being sold to, he wrote. If you provide something of real value, they will sense the viability, even if they need to turn it over a few times to figure out exactly how to pry the gold from the rock. When they follow up, then you can offer what else you have. As for everyone else, they pretty much all had conditions. For example, Donald Laughlin of LMG PR said original content needs to be informative, to which I said, yeah, well, duh. Carl Vandenberg with Gigamon said it's okay to use supplemental assets in their pitch, but only if it helps convey a very technical story in a unique and compelling manner. Okay, that works for my white paper. Radhika Dugal with Super said you have to tell a unique and compelling story first, and only supplement that with original research and infographics that are really key to making your point. That superfluous info isn't central to the pitch, shouldn't be included. Yeah, well, right. I was planning to do exactly that, tell a unique story and not include superfluous content. But I like what Dave Platter from ProTech Group said. When you pitch a journalist, you want to give them everything that you can that might help them decide to write your story. I frequently give them not only a pitch, but data and infographics and third-party sources and research that will help them get a complete picture. Journalists have a hard enough job. Help them out by giving them all the help you can. Bingo. That was my answer to that. Yeah, others said sharing your additional assets is considerate of journalists' time by not requiring them to spend more time to learn more, that sharing the whole story establishes your company's credibility, that valuable content makes memorable and lasting impressions, and helps the media find incremental value in the story. There's a lot more in this piece on Forbes, and we'll have a link to it in the show notes. But I'm wondering, Neville, has it ever occurred to you or have you ever heard that it's not a good idea to include original research, infographics, or other assets when you're pitching a reporter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have to admit, when I read the piece, knowing we were going to talk about it today, my immediate reaction was, this is basic stuff. Surely this is something any competent PR person would already be thinking about this. Do we need a kind of a how-to? Well, actually, I think we probably do. If this is any indicator, maybe people really don't know that there are these things they ought to be doing when pitching the media. So I'm not going to complain about it being basic 101 type stuff. It's actually quite useful, if only as a reminder. But I think, to me, it would be natural to think about maybe using the word proprietary is a bit of a red herring here, because that implies something that is exclusive and you're not allowed to do anything with it other than this purpose. And I think you need to make it pretty open. Anything you send to a journalist is kind of like, you can use this any way you want, share it as widely as you want. So you do your prep in terms of how you present that information to your journalist outreach. You see this actually a lot already, where there's an advantage, for instance, in telling a complete story. If it enables that journalist you've reached out to tell the story better than otherwise would be the case just with a press release, for example. But he or she, you've shared charts or graphs or research data or whatever, and you make it quite clear that the conditions for using it are reference, cite the source, etc., and do it that way. So all the points that these 15 council members mention are check boxes. Yep, absolutely. You need to ensure all of these things. I think the one who mentioned, there's one I was reading about only offer additional information if the journalist follows up with you. I'm not sure. I think this is one of those it depends probably, Shell. I think on the circumstance, that as a general rule, you should provide enough information to, I suppose, ensure an action by the journalist that tells your story or gets a further inquiry. So maybe that's how you address that one. I guess the point that person, it's Jesse Anthony of Claimosity, makes is that you don't want to be sending a journalist you're pitching if it's a kind of a, I don't know, the usual pitch process. It's not a personal outreach where you send them a ton of stuff unsolicited. And I guess that's how I'm interpreting his reasoning for that comment. I'd agree with that. Don't send stuff unsolicited, meaning don't send a bunch of stuff that's like 6 attachments in your email or something like that. So maybe you send them a teaser. I think the point, though, it is worth reminding readers and indeed listeners to this podcast that these are actually useful tips as a reminder if you already know this stuff. So your immediate reaction, don't let it be as mine was, which was, well, did we need this? Actually, I think we do. So this is actually quite useful.
Yeah, I think, my first presumption is that we're not talking about a spray and pray. We're not going to send...
Hopefully not.
Which I get probably 5 of, maybe more every day. But my approach is I have a media monitoring tool, Muckrack, no secret, that is configured to help you find reporters who write about the things that you're interested in, right? You basically search on the topic and it'll say, oh, here are reporters who have written about that. And then you can go in and read what they've written and say, yeah, that's somebody who would be really interested in writing about what I'm pitching. And then I can configure my pitch based on what I know they've written about in the past. And if it's going to help to sell the story by including what is unique about our angle on it, there's nothing proprietary going into my white paper. We didn't invent any of this. We just have a thought leadership position about it that I believe, and my colleagues here believe, is not shared in a lot of our competitors. So we want to convey that thought leadership. We have some interesting angles on it. And, if an infographic is going to help, I'm going to put that into the body of the email. Now, I remember, and this is probably going back, 15 years or more, a survey of reporters about what they hated about pitches. And one of them was attachments. I got to assume that given online security these days, that has not abated at all. So I would never put an attachment in a pitch to a reporter. But I can certainly put that graphic in the body of the email and say, look, we've created this infographic that provides a new perspective on this topic, and that might just help sell it. I wouldn't withhold something that we created that's original just because it's a pitch.
No, I wouldn't either. Maybe what you do then is have that material, that content available online someplace and with a link in your email to the reporter so he or she could go get it if they want to. If they're convinced by your email, here's an easy link.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going to send them the whole white paper as an attachment. No. I think that's nuts.
No, but like you mentioned, I still see people doing that. And in fact, I still see that in my email box, unsolicited stuff. That is full of attachments.
Yeah, it's crazy.
God, what are you thinking of, you people?
Yeah.
No, this is actually quite a useful piece. And I think there's some good advice here amongst in these 15 that is worth paying attention to.
Yeah, I will also say, by the way, that the PDF white paper is going to be available on my company's website. But you'll have to fill out the typical lead generation form to get it. So I'm going to make it available elsewhere for reporters to get it. I don't want them to feel like they have to fill out a form. So I'll give them a separate download link.
Makes total sense.
And I guess that'll be a 30 for this episode of For Immediate Release.